If you're ready, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. It's time for Jeremy Fenech's Classic Conversations, and no better man to get this underway with. Bill Harris, how are you, sir?
I'm well, and thank you for the opportunity to be the inaugural,
Yes!
if you will. I'm so excited.
Yes.
No, I'm doing well, thank you.
Now, I grew up with you. I'm not going to lie. I've been on this earth 40 years. You moved to Flint just before I was born in 1977.
77.
I was born in 78.
Yep.
Okay. So, where are you, originally? Where were you?
I'm from Massachusetts originally, and I began my career in radio on my 16th birthday.
Really?
Massachusetts child labor laws would not allow the station to hire me. We call them interns today. Back then, I was the gopher. Go for this, go for that, get coffee for the jocks and all of that, and hung around that poor station for 2 years. Those poor people. But on my 16th birthday, they hired me on. It was my first day on the radio.
Awesome.
And hung out in radio all the way through 1968.
Okay.
And you'll appreciate the story. And this is a little background how the transition was made. We in radio, of course, we do our own board work.
Sure.
Board is the controls of the microphone, da-da-da-da-da. Well, in television in 1968, the TV station got away from the booth announcer who sat in the booth and went, WWLP Springfield. So all this person did for a living was sitting in the booth.
Sure.
They made a combo. They were looking for somebody who could do both. And they went after me at the radio station, would you be interested? I went, heck yeah. So morphed into that, became a director, graduated from college, and my job was going to be strictly director. I love directing,
Right.
love producing, and got bit by the news bug in 1972, and the rest is
So
history.
you started behind the scenes.
Yes, yeah. Which is, the jack of all trades, master of none thing.
Yes,
But
yes.
to know what goes on firsthand, what it's like to be a director, a producer, an audio guy, just helps my job immensely because I can anticipate a problem and help mitigate it before it turns into anything. If there's a dead mic, I know exactly what to do. If there's a camera issue, I know what to do. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. So, I heard you a little bit this morning on the air with Johnny and Amy. What was it that brought you to Flint? Why Flint?
Well, when Burke asked me that this morning, I recounted this story. It was a blind ad that I answered in a trade journal.
Okay.
They were looking for a noon producer, medium market Midwest. So I'm in an edit suite back in Springfield, and the phone rings. It's the news director from WJRT TV, and he mentions Flint, and I laughed. I really did. I laughed. I went. But I figured, what the heck? They can wine and dine me. I can come out to Flint, have a good meal. Flew me out, did the audition, and I had 1 foot out the door of his SUV, Chevy Suburban at Bishop Airport, when he offered me the job and threw a number at me. And I went, oh my God. All the way home, it was Labor Day weekend, I agonized trying to figure out a way to say, no, this is not for me. Couldn't come up with an opportunity to say no. Came out here, accepted the job, vowed to my mother, I still have it back in the days when I mailed, typewriter notes, that I would be back in Massachusetts within 2 years.
Right?
And that was 40 years ago.
40 years ago.
Right.
Wow. Now, you saw the rise and the fall of the auto industry in Flint.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of reporting involved with that. What surprised you? Was there one story that sticks out that really you didn't see coming?
No, not really. Trying to encapsulate what is 50 years of television news. I kind of became accustomed to going with the flow.
Sure.
The automotive industry, the collapse, if you want to call it that, surprised me a little bit because when I came here, when you were born and when I came here, GM was
booming.
Yeah. Which is part of the reasons why I got the salary I did. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, well, they were paying because what a great, huge community it was financially.
Right.
The slow erosion of that and the threat of the imports and the competition and seeing the gradual decay of the city, I might say you would call it kind of surprising. I mean, it was hurtful, but we survived.
Right. And it's even more touching, I think, now knowing that you're not from Flint, that a lot of people seeing the decline of Flint You stuck around. That's what I love about
Oh,
you.
and I'm still of the belief,
Yes.
there is a rebirth, there
Yes.
is growth, there
coming.
is a future for the city of Flint. And I'll tell you a story of one of the original people that go back in history that I talked to is Senator Don Riegel, Michigan
Okay.
Senator Don Riegel. And this is about the time that they were building Auto World and building the pavilion, the
Yep.
Water Street
Water
Pavilion, and the
Street.
Hyatt Regency. And Bill, tourism, this is not going to be the future of Flint.
Right.
This is Regal back in the late 70s. He said the future of Flint is going to be education. And look
Wow.
where we are today with Kettering,
Yes.
with Mott, with U of M,
Yes.
Flint, just the enormous growth. And that is the future. I mean, of education. Now you're seeing what he thought would happen. You get your academics in line, and I love, the linear from Kettering, University of Michigan, Flint, all, this straight line. Make that happen, people are going to start coming downtown. People are
Right.
going to start living downtown.
Right.
And that's what's happening.
And it's awesome to see how much downtown has really evolved
Yeah,
and
yeah.
changed over the last few years. Now, speaking of that, you were a police reporter for a while.
Yeah.
My dad was a police reporter for a while
Right.
at the Flint Journal, which now is Michigan State University. Talk about education. You never worked with my dad, did you?
I may have, because I was, actually, may have been the other way around. I may have worked as part of his job, because I was a reserve deputy with the Sheriff's Department,
That's
with
right.
the paramedic division back in the late 70s. That's where my law enforcement background, I got all my knowledge, if you want to call it that, which helps me immensely in reporting. Some people would criticize the fact that maybe I've gone on either side of the fence. And my defense of that is if my experience with the Sheriff's Department and Michigan State Police, I was working for State Police for a while, gives me an idea of how law enforcement works, it better helps me report accurately what's going on.
Absolutely.
But
Wow.
I love my law, and I'm married to law enforcement on top of that.
I was going to say, how did you meet your lovely wife?
That is a 20-minute story in and of itself. She was the first female ever, one of the first females ever accepted to the state police.
Wow.
Way back when.
Wow.
And then, as the story goes, this idiot from Massachusetts enters her life. And she's accepted to the academy. And we weren't quite serious yet. We knew we were happy together. But,
Right.
And this was her, I mean, she wanted this all of her life. And I said, I can't be a part of making that decision.
Right.
You have to make a decision, because back then, if you graduated from the State Police Academy, your first assignment was as far away from home as it could be. Right. So it was a given that she would have been transferred to the Upper Peninsula.
Oh.
She made the decision on her own, banking on maybe this relationship is going to go somewhere, to instead become a 911 dispatcher.
Okay.
And she worked for the state police, and I met her at the state police post. And
That is crazy.
Yeah,
That
so-
is so cool. I love it. So, let me ask you this: you've lived here in Flint a lifetime. I mean, my lifetime. You've been here. What is your favorite your one love about being in Michigan? You know, going to a certain spot at a certain time of year, or a certain piece of food somewhere that you can't get anywhere else. What's that one thing that really seals the deal and really makes mid-Michigan home for you?
Well, the seasons for one, and I am not one for winter, but I'm from Massachusetts. I'm from New England, So if you look at the lateral from Springfield, literally a straight line will take you to Flint.
Okay.
So I'm used to the weather here.
Right.
Matter of fact, as another story, the Beecher tornado of
Yeah.
1953.
Yeah.
If you plot it, and this is long before weather satellites and all of that, there was a meteorologist in Springfield who saw what happened in 1953 and basically predicted that system was going to hit Springfield and Worcester. And you'll look 2 days later after the Beecher tornado, there was a deadly tornado in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Unbelievable.
So the weather phenomenon. But one answer to your question, if there's something that has withstood the test of time in my 40 years, and this is law enforcement, our marriage, my profession, is the White Horse.
The White Horse.
I think we own half of that building.
Definitely.
But if there's tradition, if there's a symbol of Flint,
Many a
it's
cigar has
the
been
Polish,
smoked.
it's the Polish family and the White Horse of Flint.
Was there ever a story that you were assigned that you really didn't want to cover? No. Oh,
Nope. If
easy
that,
enough.
no.
Okay,
Nope.
cool. All right.
If that does happen in some shops, it's news to me.
Okay.
I think our management team, and I say here at 12, back in Springfield, are aware of your interests, your background, and if they assigned you a story and you had a problem with it, you could red flag it, and I think they would, they would bow to that. But no, I've never had a story that I had to do.
Very cool. Do you prefer to be out in the field or right here behind this anchor desk?
That is a real tough question. I love anchoring, but that can get old too.
Right.
There's a challenge, there is an excitement, and a certain talent required for being out in the field.
Sure.
And that's where you get to meet the people, that's where you get to know your community better. If you're stuck behind an anchor desk all the time, it's like being stuck in a closet.
Right.
But of the two alternatives, I just, so much enjoy sitting on this anchor desk every night. It's
But you do get to get out there and do some field
Oh yeah,
reporting
I mean,
every now
every
and then.
now and
Best
then.
of both worlds.
It's fun. Yeah.
Awesome.
Brush up on those skills.
What's the most unbelievable story that you've ever reported on? That you yourself couldn't believe what you were saying?
When I flew an F-16 with the Thunderbirds,
Wow.
and literally, that's where I say literally flew. Growing up in Massachusetts, I grew up at basically the end of Strategic Air Command Base, Westover Air Force Base. I had relatives in the Air Force, and this is back, don't forget, the Vietnam era, B-52s and all that. So I had a love and an interest in the Air Force and flight. So back in the 80s, the Thunderbird team would offer a media flight to one person in the area.
Sure.
And I happened to get it. So here we are, I am just chomping at the bit. And we were Wordsmith Air Force Base, which at the time was a SAC base.
Okay.
And the F-16 is sitting on the tarmac. My wife and two very young children at the time were in the command vehicle. And I find out later, Jane Marie, my wife, has a bet with the guys in the truck, in the command, the Air Force Thunderbird team, who has odds that Bill is going to lose his lunch.
Oh my goodness.
And they had it arranged with the pilot, because it was Wordsmith Air Force Base, they had a much longer runway than, we'll say, Bishop Airport.
Sure.
He took every advantage of it, fired the engines, and did a vertical takeoff. I was pulling 7.3 Gs, which is more than the space shuttle.
Oh wow.
We are over Lake Huron. No, I didn't lose my lunch.
Never lost your
we're
lunch.
up there, and it was just an amazing experience. And the pilot is saying, "Okay, look down. You see, I'm looking for the stick,
Right.
the old World War II." He says, "No, it's on your left." It was just a little game console, little button. He said, "All right, push it to the left. Boop, boop. Do it again. Boop, boop. One more, and then we're back up." He says, "You're doing pretty good, Bill." And I'm looking down at the scope, showing all altitude, speed, and all that. He says, "All right, look up, Bill." I look up. His hands are on the canopy, and he says, "The aircraft is yours."
You took over and flew that.
Did a 360 roll. So that answers your question along.
Yes, absolutely.
I was not expecting that at all.
So my next question, what was the scariest thing? That wasn't the scariest thing, but pretty close, I'm sure. But what was the scary? Have you ever felt when you were reporting in the field that you might have been in danger?
You try and not push that envelope
Sure.
going into a scenario where your life or the life of your crew is in danger. Anything involving firepower,
Right.
you got to play it very, very, very cool. Back in, Janie and I were only married a year, the Grand Blanc Township Police hostage ordeal. On Maple Avenue, I think. Yeah, Maple and Saginaw. It was a day event that played out right on the street. The bad guy with a bomb and a gun holding two police officers at bay.
Oh.
To condense the story, after dark, the suspect gets into a vehicle and says he wants to go talk to the media. Command negotiators going, "You don't want to do that, stay where you're at." Started coming down, and it was the first time in their history that the ES team opened fire. It's coming toward us.
Oh my God.
And we think the guy's got a bomb on board. ES opens fire. Everybody's diving for
Pretty
cover.
intense.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Gosh. So yeah, never anything like that again, right?
But after that happened, he retreated, went back into the house, and that's when I was called in to be a negotiator.
Wow.
And we talked him out.
Wow. That's just. Does your wife just bite fingernails off?
Well, don't freak out, but it was Grand Blanc Township. That's the department she was working for. So she started.
Oh, so she's watching.
She was there at 0700 when this started to develop. She worked until the end of her shift at 3. Meantime, I'm coming down at 3 o'clock to do the 6 o'clock news. She hung out with me all the way through, and those were her 2-3 guys. Those were her guys.
Her guys in there.
Yeah, that were out on the street.
That's
So,
going to be terrifying
yeah,
to watch that play out. Oh my gosh. So, as I sit here speaking with a very influential person, and thank you very much for your time, who are some of the most influential people and most memorable interviews that you've had over the years?
One of my very literal first interviews as a cub reporter back, I think maybe just 2 months after I left directing. The assignment desk says, Bill, we're going to send you to Deerfield Academy, where Walter Cronkite's son is graduating.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So my photographer and I don't know how we did, but we found out where Walter was staying. And door opens, and it's Mrs. Cronkite, and here's this shy, nervous little reporter. Identified myself. My photographer was 10 feet behind me. He was as nervous.
Sure.
Walter, reporter here to talk to you. He was upstairs in the shower. Comes downstairs in his bathrobe, and he could see this cub reporter was just overwhelmed. He was like a grandfather. But just calmed me down. He went upstairs, changed, and gave me a wonderful interview. And that's the guy that I grew up watching.
Right.
Yeah, so now fast forward to coming here. 2 other people. Peter Jennings, I've met 3 times.
Have you really?
Oh, and had literally electronic conversations with him. Just an amazing man. Couldn't do enough for you. He was doing World News Tonight from Detroit one day and granted an interview, and it's now 4:15. He was working out of Channel 7 at the time, getting his broadcast ready. It's 4:15, 4:30, 4:45. World News Tonight's on at 6:30,
right.
So I'm going, well, we're not going to end up talking to Peter. He comes out, he says, come on in, Bill. I'm looking, I says, don't you have to get downtown? He says, oh, that can wait. Gave me an interview. Interviewed him in New York. He was the same way. I was even invited to his funeral. He was a model. And the other one, he's fallen from grace a little bit, but I still stick up for him. It's Brian Williams.
Yeah, you went out there just recently. Yeah,
spent
that's very cool.
Spent the day with Brian and the NBC News team. And at 3 o'clock, we were doing an anchor desk interview just like we're doing here, which was a blast.
This is so much fun. I'm not kidding.
I was in the nightly news studio and talking to Brian. And I know there's an editorial meeting. We all have editorial meetings to prepare for the next broadcast. He's got one scheduled for 3:30. Well, it's 3:30, and he's still chatting with me. And I'm going, are you going to be late for your editorial meeting? And he just had this shy smirk on his face. No, don't worry about it, Bill. Interview is done. He says, you want to go to the editorial meeting? Boy, I would really like that. We'll walk into the room, satellite monitors from their bureaus in Rome, London, they're all ready for the conference call. Nobody's doing anything.
Wow.
Brian was the one who ran the editorial meetings.
You're kidding.
So that's not showing. Now we're talking to journalists.
Yeah.
It's not just the anchor man coming in and sitting, what's going on. He ran the editorial meeting.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so my stock in him rose.
That's really, really cool. Wow. Is there an interview now, looking back, that you wish you could do over? Or you wish you thought of a question? I'm sure I'm going to think of 30 questions later that I wanted to ask you. Is there one that you look back and say, boy, I really wish I would have asked him?
Not really, because my approach to interviewing is somewhat abnormal in that, and this is no slam, I've never had prepared questions.
Really?
Ever.
I don't either.
No, but I say that because I burn a lot of tape. My photographers will be the first to tell you that.
Sure.
Or if it's a live interview, I'll just ramble and ask and ask and ask. Sometimes the same question more than once. So when I run out of questions, I run out of questions.
Right.
So no, I've never had an opportunity to go back and go, gee, I wish I asked this person this. No.
That's really cool.
There are times I wish I had more time.
Sure.
But
sure. Wow, that's insane.
Yes. We pause now while Jeremy gets his cue card. Welcome back.
Thank you, everybody. A word from our sponsor. Well, that's the thing, too, ad-libbing. I mean, when you were on radio, clearly you're doing that, and I'm sure that also, a lot of that radio background helps with the quick thinking.
And it's exactly, especially when you're doing live in the field, the ad-libbing, and you're trying to put it into some way or shape, form that makes sense to you, the viewer, or the person, while you're just sitting there rambling, trying to get thoughts together in a compressed amount of time. So yeah, the radio ad-libbing, the radio background certainly helps.
That is so cool. Okay, just a few more, I promise.
That's right.
What's the best story? Now, not necessarily the most fun, the scariest, or what, but like when you take all of the elements of a great news story, when you look back on your career, can you narrow it down to just one? I mean, no, this is a solid reporter, so just about everything you do, like I said, but is there one that really sticks out as the best story? I mean, you've got so many Emmys and everything. I mean,
there are certain criteria for a good story, and one of them is pathos and the effect that story could have or will have on the viewer. And humbly, I think the one I look back on, and my wife will, I think, agree, if there was one story that I hope to be remembered for, and its impact personally, but on the community, was when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
I remember that.
And we documented it like it was yesterday. I got the diagnosis on the phone, hung up the phone. My wife was coming in from shopping, and she's, "What's the matter, Bill?" And I just found out I have cancer. And she's looking at me, "What?" And within maybe 2 minutes, we said, talked to ourselves, we are going to make something good come out of this.
Yes.
And so from that point on, and she's now reminding me to try and do some more with it here on NBC 25 and the Fox, is to get the word out, to get tested, because I mean it's so simple.
Yeah.
And I had some early detection, so I'm sitting here, thanks to the good Lord, 10 years cancer free now. So yeah, if there was a story that I'm proud of, the way I edited it at home.
That's awesome. We were talking about that here too.
I couldn't go back to work, and of course, with the bags and all of that, I had this free time, and we were owned by ABC at the time. With doctor's permission, they let me work at home. So literally blood, sweat, and tears going into it, the writing and the editing.
Exactly. So. Wow. So here we are at Fox 66, NBC 25. Amazing studio. I mean, just take a look. This is the master control room. How many TV stations are being run out of that hall? Out of that room down the hall?
We think, I had asked the NCR operator, the three primary ones, of course, are NBC 25, Fox 66, and CW 46. But each of those stations have sub-channels, 12.1, 25.1. In our case, it's MeTV and all of it. And then we master control our sister station in Traverse City. There's about 25 television stations that we're running.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And watching the room where they're actually producing the news, it's the control room for the news. Your son had quite a bit to do with that, as a matter of fact.
I'm happy to add the PS to Jeremy's story. That this kid who, he was in grammar school when he used to hang out with me and his sister, by the way. We used to do Christmas pops with the Saginaw Symphony Orchestra. They were in grammar school at the time, and I'd pull them out of school, and they would go up to Saginaw with me. Nikki would be in the balcony doing her homework. He'd be on the stage running around learning. He got hired by Channel 12, and when I came over here, he still was in engineering over there, and they hired him as the chief engineer of the two stations here. So
how cool is that to see your son?
Oh, I love it.
Influencing this. Yeah. It's amazing.
He was in the conference room when we went next door. As they're tearing apart the other building next door right now, renovating it. Yeah, he and his team are over there. So I get to see him every day. It's a blast. It's
that is so cool. All right, one more question. And look, I don't even. Aren't you
look
proud
at
of me?
that.
Aren't you proud of me? Okay. What is on? Okay, for example, I've done a lot of interviews in my day, and I said to myself a couple weeks ago, why don't I start picking who I'm going to interview instead of people coming to me? Hey, would you talk to so and so? Would you talk to so and so? I'm looking out. I want to talk to Bill. I want Wink Martindale. I can't believe I got
know
Wink
Wink,
Martindale,
yeah.
right? So, is there something on your reporter's bucket list that you would love to report on, an interview that you would like to conduct? Is there something? Because, I mean, like I said, you've done so much. You've got such a full career behind you. What's left?
As odd as it sounds, I've always had a desire to interview, not cover, the Pope.
That would be awesome.
You know, that's obviously it's never going to happen, but yeah, to talk.
Maybe he's watching. You
talk
never
to
know.
Pope Benedict, give me a call, okay? We'll do lunch.
Absolutely.
But that would be a hoot. Because I've interviewed some presidents, and that in itself, was overwhelming. But to be able to interview the Pope someday would be kind of cool.
That would be very cool. Bill Harris, I can't tell you what a fan I am of your work.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
You're an icon to the Flint community, and just keep doing what you do, man.
I love doing it, and have fun with your show. This is so exciting.
This is fun. Bill Harris, everybody.
Peace.
This is it.
And we went. Now we get.
Wow.
Right, now we get. Now, they knew what they were doing when they got this place.
This is massive. Wow. Wow. Welcome home, Bill.
It's, people ask, do you love, I love this place. Absolutely love it. And we'll play games with the lighting.
Oh, cool.
Because it's a continuation of the story you said in there. At 10 o'clock, we do Fox 66 News at 10 to 11, and then 11 o'clock, NBC 25 News at 11. We're all from the same studio.
Right.
But the difference is the lighting.
Oh, wow. That is so cool. Unbelievable. Look at that. It's like a dance club.
Yeah, so you can program, I mean, it's obviously, as you can see, unlimited colors.
Sure.
Palette. I think that's breaking news which we've used once.
Only
And
once.
we don't like to, breaking news, it has to be pretty serious. And that was, I think, the Neville stabbing at Bishop Airport that day. That was a new.
That was a new, yep.
So
Yep.
I've embraced the new technology.
Yeah.
I mean, I shoot video on that thing all the
Is that a
time.
6?
Yes.
See?